It was the first time an African-American director directed on Broadway. And, this is 1959, so this is, this is a few years before the real upsurge that we're familiar with as far as the civil rights movement is concerned. So, I am one of a number of people who feel that, that this play was instrumental in giving voice to, to the concerns and the issues that Black Americans felt in that time and began to fight for. It's the play itself is, for me, is a different play now. I haven't changed any of the words. I haven't updated it. I haven't sort of turned it into Toronto or something of this nature. I've respected its roots, but we know what happens at the end, right? Now, not in terms of the play, but in terms of history. And but the play still stands up because, for me, it turns out, without even knowing it, maybe Lorraine Hansberry wrote the first African-American everyman play.
Drafted for you to be sitting around half dressed. Where's your robe? Cleaner. Well, go get mine.
I think it's relevant to the community at large. It's definitely relevant to the African-American / Canadian community in that it is a part of our history. And the story, when I say it's an everyman play, in today's context, the play takes on, Walter Younger takes on the role of Joe, who gets up every day and goes to work for his family and is looking for that opportunity to do better for his family. And if you go to St. Henry or Little Burgundy or Point St. Charles or up north to, in the Montreal north at Huntsic region and so forth, Côte de Neige, I guarantee you'll find somebody like Walter who's devoted to his family, is a laborer, works in a factory or something, barely over minimum wage, and buys a lottery ticket every week in hopes of, even just a little bit coming through that'll give him, that ability to do something for his family. And that's what this story is about now.
It was your money and you did what you wanted with it.
Right now it is focused on the development and presentation of African Canadian works and artists. So we focus mainly on the works that come out of Canada and from the Canadian experience, the Canadian Black experience. We're veering off a bit from our mandate for this season to celebrate the long history of the African American voice in a continental context in North America, and the contribution that it's made.
It started off as a subgroup of the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Montreal way back in about 1964, 65. And it was a committee called the Drama Committee. This whole Afro-Caribbean context there. It was a lot of things we did were involve music, movement in dance as and song, as in calypso, and the calypso was different to the folk stuff that became a very popular part of American culture at one time on the whole protest movements. And so it was very exotic to some degree, and so it had an attraction. It had a nostalgic appeal for the Caribbean people that were mainly at the university here.
It's been a learning process, but it's actually really helped me understand what I do know. You're kind of there and people are looking at you and you're sort of, okay, well, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. Now it's more of this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. So it's a position I've been growing into and will continue to grow into. And I am enjoying it. I've only recently realized that, as an artistic director, you have actually the facility to affect change in the little world that is yours.
Looking back, it was difficult. But looking back, I guess we were all younger and had more energy, and nothing bothered us. You didn't have to sleep, you didn't even have to eat. You know, life is like that. No, but looking back, it was quite tough. But nobody took any money for being an actor. Nobody got paid for the first 10 years or so of the Black Theatre Workshop functioning. If you can imagine that we were getting a grant at one point of $2,500 from the Canada Council that had a special grant for encouraging art and culture among new groups.
You understand what I did, don't you? I just seen my family fall apart.
The African American community in the States, the true African Americans, are only now beginning to come into their own as a culture, defining African American culture as a culture, as opposed to sort of looking outside and looking to Africa and looking all over the place to define themselves. They're now getting to a point where they understand that the African American experience is a shared experience and thus is a culture, which now helps African Canadians define themselves, because, you know, we don't come from the same history. You know, many of the Americans who came up to Canada and settled in Windsor and Salt Spring Islands in the U.S. in BC and the Amber Valley in Saskatchewan, you know, were escaped slaves through the Underground Railroad and so forth. So there's that connection. But they built new lives for themselves. And then that's not even talking about the Indigenous Black Canadians who from Nova Scotia, who came up with the United Empire Loyalists. They are Black loyalists. You know, and we look to the United Empire Loyalists as being the founders of Canada. Thus, those people are part of the founders of Canada. You know, so, but they're not seen as such. Right. So those are the stories that we try to get out, and through that, I guess, you know, the images that we try to present, the alternative images that we try to present.
Talking about your children's dreams.
Walter Lee.